Good morning YouTube. This might be a bit windy, so I apologise if you're getting wind noise. I'm up here in Cornwall still, obviously because I live here. I live quite near the mining area, so you might be able to see around me in the background. Actually, I'll just float the camera around. See that light there? It's really beautifully misty here today. Anywho, I just live down there. But I'm thinking about age actually, and growing old, prompted by a number of things actually. Partly by a video I watched recently here on YouTube by someone who's around about the same age as myself, talking to somebody quite a bit younger, you know, in a particular way, which is to do with age differences, and that got me thinking about it. Also, on a kind of more personal note, I recently discovered I'm a grandfather. Became a grandfather at the beginning of February. I didn't know at the time, but I do now. And I'll tell you the story about that at some point. So that's obviously got me thinking about age, but also some stuff I'm doing at work. Some of my students are, well, oh boy, if the details anyway. It's as a result of that, I've watched a few videos from younger YouTubers or YouTubers talking about demographics on YouTube, what the average viewer is like, that kind of thing, why viewing behaviour is tailored in a certain kind of way. And it did get me thinking about, you know, what's it like, or what's it going to be like to grow old here in this medium? How are people going to do it? How am I going to grow even older than I already am? Actually, I think I'm quite a fortunate position because I started in YouTube when I was over 50. So apart from Alzheimer's setting in and these videos being even more boring than they are at present, there's not an awful lot of life changes that's going to happen. But a lot of YouTubers are much younger than I am, and many of the very big channels are young people who've got significant life changes in front of them, inevitable ones. You know, just the process of, you know, getting married, having children, having grandchildren, having major illnesses, having tragedies happening in your life, having joyous things happening in your life, going through puberty even in some cases, you know. Just these things that change you, and which you can't, and you kind of need to be seen to be changed by them. If you're not seen to be changed by life's events, you're cast in a way which is quite shallow, aren't you? Something goes wrong there. So I'm fascinated to see how that's going to work, and how those things will change YouTube itself. I mean, just to stay with people for a minute, I mean, I certainly know some YouTubers who've been on here for a few years, who are essentially doing the same thing as they did when they first started and got popular, because you know, it worked. I know, for example, a young man who's early 30s now, but he was either fortunate or unfortunate enough to have one of those young, youthful faces. So when he first started doing YouTube videos in his, I guess, mid to late 20s, he came across like a teenager, and I think it was assumed to be one. So a lot of his videos when he first started were those kind of videos that 15, 17-year-olds, that kind of age group, make. You know, so a lot of them are about pop music, a lot of them are quite irreverent in that kind of appropriately teenage rebellious style. They're full of the kind of language and the kind of what the fuck attitude that again is completely appropriate for teenagers. But he's 33 or 34 now and he's still doing it, and that's starting to look a bit weird. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that really, because in a sense there's no reason why somebody who's that age or my age or whatever shouldn't behave in that kind of way. But at the same time, you just get the sense of, oh, this is a bit creepy actually. It's like watching, you know, a Hollywood film star or TV stars who were, you know, popular in their youth, still trying to do the same thing when they're older. They just come off as kind of weird, don't they? You know, you just feel like saying, you know, get a proper haircut, change your gig really. Seems like the only way to get away with that. Who am I thinking? I'm thinking of people like Jack Wilde. You probably don't remember Jack Wilde. He was a television and film star when I was a kid, and he went through a really difficult patch. He just kind of fell out of fashion. He just got too old for the gig really. It seems like the only way you can do it is by kind of going through some kind of rites of passage, like a breakdown or something, and then coming back as an ironic version of yourself, like Keith Chegwin. Do you know Keith Chegwin? He used to be on Junior Showtime when I was a kid, which was this really awful kids talent show, and then he made a sort of had a minor success in his own shows, doing things like Cheggers Plays Pop, which, as the name implies, was a really cheesy pop show, and he was a teenager doing that, and that was kind of fine as a teenager. But as he got older and older, obviously he stopped getting work because he wasn't a teenager any longer. His voice broke. He started looking more like a, well, less like a teenager and more like a paedophile, to be honest. But and then he fell so out of fashion, and he had one of those kind of public breakdowns people get, you know. He went on the booze for a long time. But then recently, over the last few years, he's been kind of readopted on TV as an ironic version of himself. He appeared on Extras, you know, the Ricky Gervais vehicle, and he was really funny on that, and kind of quoting himself. He was playing himself and quoting himself as this really inappropriate racist bigot. It was very funny, and he's appeared in a number of things since, as I say, an ironic version of his teenage self with all the kind of awareness that comes with age, supposedly. So I guess that's one way of doing it. I don't know how that would work. I'm kind of imagining people like Onision, who is, I haven't watched Onision for ages actually. Does he still make video? Or Fred, you know, Freddy's a bit different, isn't he? But Fred Figglehorn, obviously not myself. Fred's a bit different because he's clearly playing a character, whereas Onision, at least on the surface, appears to be playing himself. But he's, what is he? He must be knocking on 30's door by now. You know, how is he going to? Is he really just going to continue that? Now, 14-year-old fans, 14-year-old female fans, writing love letters to him when he's 50, or is he going to have to go away and come back in kind of rebranding exercise? How do you get old on YouTube? And it affects the YouTube itself, really. One of these videos I was watching that one of my students pointed me to was talking about how the YouTube demographic shapes the behaviour, shapes online etiquette. You know, and as I say, the online demographic, not of viewers on YouTube, most viewers of YouTube are female, but most commenters and video makers, at least the well-known ones, are male, and young males at that, between the ages of 14 and 18, something like that. And that the kind of patois, the kind of culture that revolves around Western, particularly 14 to 18-year-old males, is, you know, it's quite specific, isn't it? It's hormonal. It's irreverent. It's in many cases, you know, it just is sexist and quite often racist and approaching psychopathic at times. You know, I remember being that age myself, and maybe I'm not typical, but it was very important at that age to kind of not care on certain levels, and to be ridiculously risk tolerant and yeah, kind of whacked out and all those kind of things. So and there's a lot of that. The dominant gaze, G-A-Z-E, the dominant pair of eyes that looks into YouTube is that kind of pair of eyes, I think, and that shapes a lot of the behaviour that goes on here. So I'm curious about how that'll change when you know, when we all start to grow up a wee bit. Morning. Don't usually meet a lot of people on this walk. The dog's there. Yeah. So that's that, really. How do you grow old? I know a couple of people have been. Actually, I'm not sure this is relevant. I've forgotten which channel I'm making this for, because I've got several channels on YouTube. You may know this, you may not. But one of them I've got right now is specifically for work. So if you're one of my students at work watching this, then I don't know where I've put this. So who knows? So yeah, end users, that's what I think I'll call people who are growing old like myself on YouTube, growing old in public. How do we do that then? Yeah, that'll do for now, I think. Warbled on a lot, and finish in traditional fashion with a little bit of a pan of the location where I am, and then this Graham Sutherland painting, Entrance to a Lane.